All right, so in our last video, we talked about space. In this one, we're going to talk about texture. Texture is the feel of something, either the actual feel, sort of if you touch something and it's smooth, or it's rough, or it's slimy, or the effects on an object that make it look like it is rough, smooth, slimy, grainy, what have you. It's used to create visual interest or a focal point in a composition. If you have everything sort of one texture and then one thing that's another texture, the eye is immediately going to go to that one thing that is the other texture because it's different. It also helps create contrast within a design composition, especially if it's monochromatic, and we'll get to that in a minute. And it helps to visually balance a design composition. So if you have sort of a lot going on the left side of a canvas, but nothing on the right side, you can put texture on the right side of the canvas. You don't even have to change the color. You can just put texture there, and it will help balance out that composition. We're going to talk about balance in a later video. Here we have two portraits. Now, the one on the left is done with brushes, and the strokes are very delicate. There's not a lot of paint on the canvas. It's very flat. The one on the right was done with a spatula, a paint spatula, and not a brush, and therefore the strokes are very rough. They have a lot of texture to them. They've really globbed the paint onto the canvas, and it's very three-dimensional because of that. Now, the colors of these two portraits are actually relatively the same. The brush strokes or the spatula stroke is going in basically the same direction on both portraits, and the subject matter is the same. They're both portraits of the human face. However, they're very, very different because of the texture. Now, the one on the right is easier to see, especially up close. The details, the roundness of the cheeks, easier to see, but the one on the right is far more interesting because not only do you have the highlight and shadow painted in with the different values and hues of paint, but you also have, because of the three-dimensionality of the paint being slopped on the canvas, you also have actual natural highlights and lowlights and shadows cast by the light hitting those globs of paint. It's much more visually interesting, even if you don't really like it. I know a lot of my students don't actually like the picture on the right, but even if you don't like it, it is far more eye-catching, and the more you look at it, the more there is than the picture on the left. Here we have two monochromatic images. Monochromatic means it's the same color all the way around. It's not more than one color, it's just one. The image on the left isn't actually a piece of art. It's a dry piece of concrete. Now, usually when people lay concrete, they do it nice and flat and they try not to have any bubbles or holes in it, but that wouldn't be visually stimulating or visually interesting. Because this concrete dried sort of rough in places and smooth in places, it's far more interesting to look at. You can see too that it's sort of balanced. You have the same amount of roughness on the left-hand side as you do on the right-hand side, and it's actually pretty balanced top to bottom too. You have the texture in the up right corner and texture in the bottom left corner. You also have areas of very little texture, those smooth areas in the top left corner and the bottom right corner. So even though it's just gray concrete, it's much more visually appealing. You would look at this image a lot longer than you would look at just a nice, flat, smooth piece of concrete. Now, the blue image on the right is actually a piece of art, and it is also monochromatic with that blue paint. But here we have several different kinds of textures, and that's how the space has been broken up. We have what I believe is crinkled up aluminum foil. We have some sandpaper. I'm not really sure what that is down at the bottom. It looks sort of like leather, but I'm guessing it's watercolor paper. We have the bubble wrap on the right, and then some piece of probably corrugated cardboard, I'm guessing, is that little piece sort of up in the right-hand corner. Now, these are all just different textures, and it's the texture that makes it so interesting. It's all blue, but it's the crinkly with the rough, with the bubbles, with the sort of smooth. And I bet by looking at this image, you could sort of imagine if you ran across your hand across this piece of art in real life, what those textures would feel like. Here we have that playing out in a set design. This is a very Middle East, sort of Eastern Asian set design here, and all that metal, the chimney sort of piece on top, the swirly side pieces, and even that beautiful sun piece behind the couch there in the bottom right hand corner on down center stage. That's all metal, but it's been beaten and embossed to have these really beautiful, intricate patterns in it. Now, these patterns, they're three-dimensional, but they're not incredibly three-dimensional. There's probably an inch of difference um, between the raised portions and then the negative space portions on each of those panels. But it's enough that when the light catches it, you get this beautiful highlight and shadow work. It's very visually appealing. Your eye travels all over this picture. You also have the different textures with the flowers. These are soft, delicate textures amongst the hard, shiny metal. You have the soft, sort of squishy, it seems very squishy, couch there against the smooth, hard of the floor. There's texture being played all over this set, and it's gorgeous, and it really makes for a really beautiful composition. Here we have another set design. This is for Faust. And here, although there is set in the actual, or there is texture in the actual set, we have some sort of brick-like texture happening on the walls. The floor is very smooth, meant to resemble marble. Most of the texture happening in this image is actually from the lights, from the gobos. That play of light and dark really makes things look highly textured, where most of the set's relatively smooth. So you can see that lighting plays a enormous part in creating texture on the stage. Here we have texture and costumes. The top right image, or the top left, pardon, the top left image is the bodice piece from the Game of Thrones costumes. This is for Daenerys Targaryen. And those of you who watch Game of Thrones know that she is the mother of dragons. Now, this bodice, sort of the crossover parts there that have been sewn on, have been smocked to look like scales. And you can see that they actually do look a lot like dragon scales. Mother of dragons, dragon scales. You can see where the costume designer was going with that. There's also netting sort of overlaid over parts of it and beadwork, and all of that is to make it look rough and scaly to represent her connection to her dragons. You can see too that the majority of this texture work is happening up along the neckline and the bosom area. Now we know, those of us who watch this show, that Daenerys Targaryen is very powerful. She's violent, but she also uses her sensuality, her womanhood, to get what she wants. She does have a number of lovers in the movie, or the show, and also in the books themselves. And so the costume designer was probably trying to play up her décolletage, bring more interest to sort of her chest area with this texture, because you can see the back is not that textured, and as we move down past the waist a little bit, it's not that textured. Most of the texture is happening right up near the neckline. On the bottom right, we have Ursula from the stage adaptation of The Little Mermaid, And so much texture is happening here. It's absolutely wonderful. We have the very shiny, it looks like it would be smooth or maybe even a little slimy texture of her dress. But we also have printed on shapes. Remember, shapes are two-dimensional. We have the shapes that are sort of also scaly on there, all like maybe the scales of a turtle, or they're not fish scales, they're not dragon scales, but you can see that they shine and they shimmer and they do have that dark negative space in them. Of her dress, we also have very, very highly textured gloves going up her arms that are definitely rough looking. If you ran your hand across them, they might be really rough, they might be really sharp, a little dangerous. Then we have this sort of crepey, satiny texture of the black of her bustle. That's the part that of her skirt that sort of comes off of her hips and her back area. That crepey satin would be probably smooth, not a lot of texture there. But then we have these amazing suckers, these sort of teardrop shaped, very pointy, very sharp um, forms that come down on that bustle to represent the suckers of her tentacles. Now, I don't know about you, I normally don't think of suckers as being sharp, but to add that texture, that spiky, painful looking texture makes her dangerous. And we know that Ursula is dangerous. So this was really a very creative way to sort of give what we think of, octopi as being sort of soft and squishy, but making soft and squishy also very sharp and dangerous. Great use of texture to evoke character. Here's another costume design. If you know the story of the Prince and the Pauper, you know that the Prince and the Pauper are basically identical twins. They're not really related, but one is a prince and one is very poor. And then they switch places, and the one that's very poor doesn't want to go back to being very poor. He likes living as the prince, and that's your conflict. Um, Here we have that played out. Now, these two gentlemen have on similar silhouettes, right? They have the similar sort of mop cap up top, even though the gentleman on the right has feather in his. They have an undershirt and they have a doublet. The main difference between these two and how we know that one is the prince and one is the pauper is color, first and foremost, but also texture. Look at the texture of the doublet, the gold doublet. That's his jacket he's got on. It's very shiny, very satiny. He's got that jacquard weave in there that makes it very luxurious looking. He's got the texture of the embroidery going down the front of the doublet in that trim. The fluffy feather in his cap is very textured and soft, right? This is luxurious, um, rich, rich textures. The texture on the right, or the gentleman on the right, left, I'm sorry, the pauper, is very rough, homespun, probably broadcloth. His hat is even more textured than his doublet is. And while, yes, the color is different, he's in more neutral tones, poorer tones, we really get the texture of the rip of his sleeve with those little fibers that are coming off. The texture looks poor. Now, this is an incredibly important way to utilize texture when we're talking about social class and economics of a character. If you have someone who's an upper class or very rich, you're going to put them in luxurious, soft, velvety, silky textures. Um, Even if it's just a really beautifully brushed wool suit for present day. You have someone who is of low class or poor, you're going to put them in cottons, very coarse weaves, things that fray easily because that frayed texture is very indicative of poverty. Um, I hope that this video has been informative for you in regards to texture. Please stay tuned for our next video, which is scale.